Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of Houston right here at UHN-TV. We also want to remind you that you can still watch us on Roku as well as our apps. That's with the iPad and Android. Look forward to having you come and be with us on UHN-TV, Urban Houston Network. With this morning, I'm Dr. Clara Brent, and of course, Dr. Bobby Mills, the great and wonderful
Amen.
Man of God and author, as well as
a decent person.
A decent person, of course, a decent person. And we are looking forward to having another good year, Bobby.
Yeah.
This year, even better, we pray. God will continue to bless us and watch over us. And to think about how God has watched over us last year, we pray that He watches over us this year, especially when His money is involved and the way our nation is being ran by people we are trusting in, and they're not doing their job the way they should. What do you have to say about how we ought to be handling our money this year, since everything is going up like crazy?
Well, the thing that we need to know is, as a Christian, we ought to operate in God's economy, not in the world's economy, because the world is in opposition to children of God. Because the children of Cain are controlling the resources of the world.
That's true.
And since we know that the spirit of Cain lives on. Because I've read the Bible from cover to cover, and nowhere did I see recorded that Cain died. So,
But isn't that something? It is not recorded that he died.
Yeah, so
when did he die? They lost count of him, didn't they?
Right. So he got offspring. Obviously, he got a lot of offspring,
children, of course,
in the House of Representatives, because they're in such a disarray of chaos and dysfunction that even once they grab the gavel and in control of the House, they can't elect leadership. They can't decide on who they want to be the leader, because everybody want to be the leader.
Oh, yes.
And when you got a bunch of folk where everyone wants to be in charge and no one wants to follow, then you got confusion on top of confusion. Now, they've already had 6 votes, something that has never occurred in the history of the country in over 100 years, in order to elect the Speaker
of the House.
And they can't do it. So you got power
just distributed everywhere,
well, you know what the old folks say, they got power and don't know what to do with it.
That's true.
So you got a conflict struggle. Now, one thing you got to get them Democrats folk credit for, they sticking together on this one. They voted, every one of them, 212 Democrats voted for Hakeem Jeffries to be the Speaker of the House, even though they're not in the majority. And the Republicans, they got the majority, but 6 times they failed to really effectively elect leadership. That it's really sad. It's nothing to really be gleeful about. It's something to really. Here we are in the greatest nation that the world has ever known.
And in a short time at that, because all the other nations are much older than this country is, and we became the leaders of the whole world. for a while.
Well, and
of course, they're trying to take that away from us because we have left God and His ways and His precepts.
Well,
that's what's wrong up there in Washington, because they've lost their way.
Well, one thing they did do, Dr. Brand, is the founders wrote the most powerful governing document that the world has ever known.
Oh, of course, but that's been
because
300 years ago or 400 years ago.
They started out recognizing the universal dignity of humanity. You know, they said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Now, we've never lived up to that declaration, but at least they got it on paper.
And Lord knows they're trying to take it off that paper.
Oh, yeah.
Even with the highest of the power here in the United States is the Supreme Court, and they seem as if they are not even interested in how the Constitution is supposed to be considered in their hearts and minds in regards to people that are in position like presidents and legislators. The Supreme Court should be on a higher order, and they should be closer to God than any other one that it represents this country and its Constitution. And that bothers me a whole lot in a different way of thinking and worshiping and wondering why are they so far from the ways of the Lord. And it bothers me that those that were picked are not actually showing their togetherness with the Supreme order,
you know,
and that's with God.
Because
you can't rule very well if you don't go by His rules.
Well, it's boiled down to one thing. You know, the folk who have the positions and the ability to make decisions, too many of them desire white privilege. That's all it's about. It's about.
Well, you've said that many times. The white privilege has overridden
democracy. See, we live in a multicultural society. Mm-hmm. This has never been a white society. The whites who came here, they were fleeing the oppression of other whites.
True.
They were being oppressed by whites.
Exactly, and they don't understand.
And they came here looking for religious freedom, looking for personal
gains,
freedom.
Yeah, personal freedom, personal gains.
So when they got here, there were people of color living here
already.
So this has never been a white country. It was never that from the beginning, but they've been trying to make it a white country since 1619. Mm-hmm. Something that it never was and can never be. But one thing I was reading the other day that really, you know, I always knew that Lyndon Johnson, even though in some ways he was bodacious or crude, as some people might want to say, but he was a God-fearing man. Lyndon Johnson, I read a speech the other day that he gave at the University of Texas. Mm-hmm. And Lyndon Johnson was a hell of a man, I'm telling you. I mean, he was a God-fearing man. And
shrewd, very shrewd.
And now if you go back and listen to, I'll send it to you, Dr. Brent. You go back and listen to the speech of Lyndon Johnson, and he was talking to a lot of folks, some of them, you know, influential black leaders at the University of Texas, and a lot of whites. And you go back and read that speech, you can see how and why he was able to get the 1964 Civil Rights Bill passed and the 1965 Voting Rights Act passed, because he had had a spiritual epiphany. He had had an encounter with God.
Okay.
And understood the universality of humanity. Now, he may have been a little bit on the bodacious, crude side and all of that, but Lyndon Johnson was a hell of a man.
Yes, he was.
And he was a God-fearer. He had a God conscience. Now, people can say, and to me, beyond Abraham Lincoln, Lyndon Johnson is right behind him, 1.1. Now, Biden is in that vein. People are not giving
him credit.
Biden any kind of real credit.
It's true.
But given the situation that we had over the past 4 years with former President Trump, Biden is doing a hell of a job.
I believe he had.
And he's trying to get the country
to see it
back on track in terms of living up to the spiritual tenets of the Constitution.
Right.
And he's probably accomplished more than any president in modern time. Now, you know, a lot of black people, they like Slick Willie.
Oh, yes.
You know.
We do.
But that's just it. Slick Willie was slick.
Yeah, he was just slick. That's all.
But Slick Willie wasn't nowhere near the kind of man that Biden is. And
True.
Even though former President, you know, Obama is a decent man, and
well, he had a hard time
we all love
too.
him because of
Yes.
the historical aspect of
Yeah.
him getting elected. But them people wasn't gonna let him get anything accomplished. Not what Biden is doing. I mean, when you go back and look at the legislative accomplishments of Biden and what Biden is trying to do,
he has really worked hard and has
Biden
made very good decisions to me.
Yeah, he got a good God conscience.
Now, our governor sent a busload of or 2 busloads up there to Washington to him of
No, he sent him over there to the vice president's home.
Vice president, okay.
Yeah, he
to the vice president's
to her residence. You know, Vice President Harris, and
sure did.
you know, that's
just
sick. I mean, you know,
there was just a little play.
Yeah, that's
all that was, a play.
You can't say anything other than that.
But a lot of people,
is sicker than sick.
They're sick, and a lot of people are trying to agree with what was done, but that shows no insight as a leader whatsoever. That's just spite of. That's what it sounds like, is a spite, instead of doing what is necessary to help to run this government. And the states should stick by the president. The governors of each state ought to stick by the president, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. What is right, and what is wrong, like Christ says. They're just saying be nay, yes. No.
Well, that's when you have power.
That's when power is used.
And you do not know what to do with it. And right now, the Republicans have the power in the House of Representatives. And they're in disarray. They're in confusion. They can't even select who they want to be their leader. Now, that in and of itself, they've had 6 votes already, and when I was coming into the studio, they were getting ready to take the 7th vote for Speaker to lead them. Now, if they can't be, it's 220 of them, or 222. Now, if you can't get on one accord, and supposedly you all have the same governing philosophy. And of course, you know, they got a couple of blacks in there that they're using now. They got this little boy from Florida, a young man from Florida, using him. They put him up for Speaker, knowing
What they call, what?
knowing full well, he got 20 votes, and they using him to block Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
You know, because they know good and well they're not going to vote him in.
No, there's no Speaker of the House. That's the truth.
But now the Democrats, they didn't go on and voted a black man for the first time in the history of the country
as a Speaker
to lead them.
Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful
Well,
thing.
see, the minority leader is Hakeem Jeffries from New York.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 212 Democrats. Now, he's the leader of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's in the position where if the Democrats regain the House in 2 years, in 24, they will more than likely vote him in as
Speaker.
the first black Speaker of the House.
Yes.
He'll be in that.
So what about Nancy? Will you think will she still be active as?
Oh, she's active, but
she once was, or she be a mentor to the one that's.
Yeah, right. That's what she's doing. She's still in the House, just as a representative from California, San Francisco area.
Yeah.
But she's not, in the leadership ranks. She turned it over.
I got you.
And basically selected Hakeem Jeffries.
I hated to see her husband. I know that's a scary thing for people to scare you out of your position as a leader because of what has happened.
I think what happened was that once her husband got attacked in their home, and you done had somebody violate your home that way, I think she just decided that
she let go.
You know, she's been one of the longest serving.
Yeah, she has for many years.
Most effective leaders of the House. In a long time, and obviously the first female.
Yeah.
So she decided that she would step down from leadership position so that she could be more available to deal with her husband,
but that can,
and so forth.
As it happened to her and her husband, it can happen to anyone.
Oh yeah.
That's I'm saying that are they, as leaders of this country, and you are threatened, should you back down or should you keep fighting? What would it be? What would be more important, your life, or the life of this country?
Once the Democrats lost control in this past, congressional election, where they were no longer in the majority, and then this tragic incident occurred,
just to back down.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense because she's been there a while.
Spend more time.
Yeah.
Because
I understand.
Rather than a husband, they're extremely,
yeah,
wealthy people.
Right.
So rather than a husband being in San Francisco most of the time,
she's always in California. Yes.
And she got to be
not California, but in Washington
a lot of the time. So they probably moved, got a home there in Washington, D.C., so they're together. She can be with her husband. And so you can understand that.
Well, what do you think about the economy? Is it going to be a hard situation this year in regards to prices going up, cars going up, cars costing as much as a house does now? Food, one week is one price, and next week is twice the price. What can we do as Americans to cut this thing from where it has started going? It's every time an epidemic comes out, a new word on the epidemic of COVID, prices goes up. It's kind of sickening to me that the country leadership of these companies are greedy. That's just too greedy.
When you get down to the nitty gritty,
and that we need to sacrifice.
In and of itself is a system of economics. It's an economic structure that in and of itself encourages greed.
No, it shouldn't though.
Yeah, but it does, because
You talking about free enterprise would cause greed?
Well, they're not dealing with free enterprise. They're
Well, that's
dealing
what
with
America's based on, isn't it?
They're dealing with capitalism. You know,
we ought to be dealing with free enterprise.
You know, they're dealing with capitalism based on exploitation.
Okay.
And, you know, capitalism.
Wouldn't that be wrong?
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, you know that it's all about corporate greed. The reason why, not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, I stopped at Sam to get some gas. Gas was $2.36 a gallon.
Yeah, next week.
Now they done shot it up to $4 something. Then all of a sudden, it's $2.36 a gallon. Mm-hmm. Now I rode by the other day. They bring it back up to like $2.72,
$2.75,
$2.75 or what have you. So it's all about
playing a game,
greed, and these corporate executives
with their greedy selves
earning millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at what the president and vice president and the other executives of Exxon and Shell. Look at what they paid themselves as bonuses because of the big windfall.
Doesn't that happen with the board of directors, that they do all this raising and the salaries?
They don't care because they pay them. See, when you serve on the board of directors,
but they should go by the people that own the shares. Are they voting and the people are not involved in the voting? Something is going wrong, because the share owners are supposed to be the ones that make the decisions for the board. The board gives the share owners important information in regards to that company, and what they want to vote on, and then the shareholders has the right to either accept or not accept it or vote against it. So I'm saying that the shareholders are greedy as well.
Oh yeah, no
and
question
and that's wrong, and that's really wrong, because we share with this company in a way that I see that you're going to have growth, but you should grow.
Well, that's what capitalism engenders.
You grow,
it engenders corporate greed.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And you know, the needy invariably become the greedy. See, when you have enormous needs, you know, look at you know, Elon Musk.
You'd call a yacht a need, or 2 yachts a need.
Well, look at some of the Russian oligarchs. They have yachts that cost,
and airplanes a need,
billions of dollars. You know, one fool got for one yacht. You know, I mean, you should, like a house floating on
the water.
On the water. You know, this kind of thing and so forth. And look at even our friend Joe Manchin, to just mention him, Senator Manchin from West Virginia. He represents the poorest state in the Union, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. Hillbilly, poor people, white.
Mostly.
Now, you know what he does?
Tell us.
He lives in a yacht on Chesapeake Bay in Washington, D.C., Virginia area. And you know what the name of the yacht is? Almost Heaven.
Almost Heaven.
Now, he doesn't live in a hotel
or a
house.
He lives on this
palatial yacht
on the water.
And then he calls it Almost Heaven. Now, you know, if a mentality...
And you know those people need to vote his behind out of there.
Now, because...
Yeah, but
here's what you got to understand.
They don't know what I...
See, democracy itself, Dr. Brent, is for educated, intelligent people.
That keep up.
See, democracy in and of itself is for educated people. That's why the founders created a mass universal educational system so that everybody could get educated, because initially they wanted everybody to be able to read the what? The Bible.
The Bible, and also what's going on.
So you would know how to what?
Carry yourself.
Treat one another and carry yourself in a society. Okay? Now, West Virginia is the dumbest state, most uneducated people in the country.
And because
West Virginia.
Because of the senator.
Now, of the 10 most uneducated states in America, West Virginia is number 1.
Number 1. And they got a senator sitting out there on the water.
Yeah, on a boat. So you know anybody in their right mind, you wouldn't even vote for him. It's because you got that kind of mentality to think that a yacht is almost heaven. Ain't no way in the world you could represent me.
No.
Because I know right then and there, you insane.
And selfish. Very selfish.
Because you have
not thinking about anyone but yourself.
You have no concept whatsoever about what heaven is.
Exactly. That's
because if you think that God is heaven, you wait till you die and go to hell.
And this is heaven on earth to him, and so he doesn't care whether. He might go to the point where a lot of people say, if I go to hell, it's going to be I'm going to have a lot of company. But I don't want to have that company.
Is look at it now, of the 10 most uneducated states in the Union, he represents number 1, West Virginia. You know what number 2 is?
Mississippi.
Yeah. Mississippi is number 2.
Number 2.
So that's why you see all that craziness going on in Mississippi. Look at what's going on in Jackson.
Yes.
And
Tennessee.
And you know, all that nasty water and so forth. People can't even get clean water to drink and all that. And nobody's able to get a good education. So Mississippi
is the next one.
Is number 2. And then you go on down the line in Mississippi, and then, you know, Alabama is about number 6 or 7. Yeah. But I tell you who's not in there, Texas.
Thank the Lord.
No matter what you say about Texas.
We're doing a little education.
Well, you know, you ain't got a whole bunch of, you know, now you might have a bunch of greedy folk up in here.
Yeah.
But you ain't got no dumb folk up in here. At least they go to school and try to get a good understanding about life.
Exactly. And try to pass it on.
And then,
those that have it try to pass it on.
And you know Arkansas is in there.
Yeah.
And them Tennessee hillbillies, you know, they're in there, you know, and so forth. But that's what you're up against. And
it didn't work.
And normally, see, this is what you see now. The script has been flipped from a political point of view. What used to be states that were more, say, Republican oriented based on the tenets of Abraham Lincoln and so forth, all those states are flipped.
Yeah,
now
they flipped to Republican.
And
they
you know
used
why?
to be Democrat.
Because the Democrats, Dixiecrats,
have flipped to the Republican Party.
That's right.
That's
they
what
happened. That's it.
That's the whole
and
thing.
Then the Republicans, the Abraham Lincoln Republicans, they have become the Democrats.
Exactly.
And most people don't understand
that they can flip all the time.
They're flipping.
They flipping every time. Because at one time Reagan was even a Democrat. Yeah. And he flipped to a Republican.
Yeah,
I remember that very well. That's when I was keeping up. We had to study that. And so we know that they flip. Those that have studied in education knows that they flip. And now we have the old Democrats are Republicans. Yeah,
that's who they are.
That's what it is.
And you got a lot of us who do not understand that.
How they can flip from one to the next.
Yeah.
to the other that's why
what
we
now
the
is
two largest ones. It's no way possible.
They used to be Democrats.
Exactly, and then you have independents that used to be Republicans.
Yeah.
Now all of that they're saying we're independent, but actually you have a you play in the on the playground with the Republicans, and then you have the other part.
And what Biden has been trying to do over the past 2 years is bridge that gap so that we have more unity
than anything,
and
than
we
division.
have more peace,
yes,
and love and joy and understanding.
That's exactly what he's doing.
You know, like today, he's down there at the border trying to explain to people why we have the crisis at the border that we have, and why you got so many people desiring to come to America, immigrate to America.
Been doing it for years.
Because of what's been going on, you know, in their individual countries.
And they
see,
want an opportunity.
That's right. They see America.
It's been happening for the last, as long as America has been America.
Years.
3 something, at least. And America is a place that you can progress yourself and not be on the same level
because
for hundreds of years.
It's like President Biden was saying this morning. Hey, my family 200 and some years ago, they immigrated here from Ireland.
Sure, and Ireland was poor then.
Yeah, and they
tried looking for another place.
One group of Irishmen, white, oppressing the other group. Same thing in England. One group of England, whites oppressing another group of English.
Exactly, and they stayed in a wall. In the same country.
Well, it seems as though we've come to...
The religion wasn't good, and then the economics wasn't good. So they you wanted to come to America.
Right.
And why not these people that are trying to get here not do the same thing? And we should actually try to figure out a way of blessing these people, because America, again, can be blessed. And that's the only reason why we caught up with all the rest of the countries, is because we had people that came over here with beautiful ideas and beliefs in God and wanted to change what was going on where they came from.
Well, we've come to the end of the hour. And unfortunately,
I was getting further and further into it, you all.
Yeah, so.
Well, then, let me say this. God loves you. Keep the paper in your car. Let's keep Houston clean. We love you too. Thank you for watching. See you later.